Hi, I'm Kelly.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And this is the BodySmartPodcast.
And today we're talking about why it's not hard to lose weight. So this is a very controversial thing to say.
Standard.
But it's not actually difficult to lose weight. Shock.
Cue
Cue
people coming
being
into,
offended.
yeah.
It's, and what I actually, let's just back this up a little bit then. Why it's not actually hard to lose weight is because near enough every single person I've spoken to who's tried to lose weight before has been able to lose weight.
Yes.
So there's not an issue with trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
There's clearly an issue with trying to lose weight and keep whatever weight you've lost off.
Yeah. And we hear that a lot. I've been losing and gaining the same 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds my whole life.
Yeah.
Or the last 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So yeah, you've lost the weight multiple times. You've put in the work multiple times. Yeah. You've dug deep, made the effort. So you can lose weight. And actually you're showing not only can you lose weight, you're pretty damn good at it because you've done it numerous times. And often when I first speak to someone, I will ask, is this their first weight loss journey? And almost always it's not.
It's not just their first, it's like their 57th time of trying.
I'm sure people can't even
count how many times.
No.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, like in a year, like how many times do you attempt, or how many times do these ladies try to attempt to lose weight?
A lot.
At least a 4 or 5.
I'm just thinking back to, when I was a kid, and I can only ever remember my mum on a diet and off a diet and on a diet, but almost always on a diet.
Yeah.
And lost weight lots and lots of times, but never actually got to where she wanted to be. But each time gained a bit more weight, had more to lose, and gained a bit more weight and had more to lose.
Yeah.
And actually now I think if I sat down and asked her, she'd probably want to be where she was when she was trying to lose weight all that time, because she's heavier than she'd ever been.
Yeah. And there are some physiological and then psychological reasons why this actually makes it harder. So I think I was watching Lane Norton's Why Diets Fail. And one of the things that he talks about is when people go into these massive calorie deficits, so consuming fewer calories than you burn, and then just all of a sudden stop and then rapidly regain weight. A lot of these ladies will gain the weight back, but then some more. And each time you do that, you're creating new fat cells, which stay with you forever. Just like the way you have muscle memory, you have fat memory. So then the next time you come to lose weight, it's harder for you to lose weight, and you can gain the weight back even faster because you've got more fat cells. So every time you go through a cycle of that, physiologically, your body gets better at storing fat.
And that's just physiologically. In terms of psychologically, you're sort of reiterating this belief that you can't do it, that you always gain it back. And, that's a self-limiting belief that stops you moving forwards.
It's huge. Yeah. I used to use this example. I don't even know if this is a very good example of doing it, but I just thought it was something that's quite dramatic, which is could you imagine, let's say you've been trying to lose weight for 20 years and you've tried 100 times. And every time you've tried one of these diets, you've failed and it hasn't worked, and you've tried again because you're always on a diet. That to me would be like being in 100 relationships. People are often in a lifetime not in 100 relationships. They're in 5 or 10, 20, God knows how many. But every time, if the relationship doesn't work out, you psychologically put walls up and barriers, maybe to not get hurt as much, or to just navigate things differently. And a lot of women do this, and a lot of people who try to lose weight do this with how they approach their diets.
Yeah.
Because it's very painful to feel like you've failed again. Yeah. This hasn't worked. It must be me. And just starting to question everything, it's always so much easier for this person or that person. And you start to tell yourself that belief, oh, maybe I'm just going to be overweight my whole life. Maybe I don't deserve to be a healthy person or to be in shape, because again, just that evidence that you've got over the past however long is showing you otherwise. And then you're putting a bunch of walls up. Those, in essence, those excuses that you're telling yourself for that internal monologue, is just trying to protect you in a lot of ways, because all you've got to go off is, but this has never worked. So why would this time be any different?
You're going into this, journey and this new part of your life where you want to make this change, but in the back of your mind, you don't truly believe that you can, and you already think you're going to fail, which is a really shaky foundation to start to build from. And, I think about all the, the first conversations I have with clients, and it's very much that sort of, I want to like hold them and be like, you can do this and you will do this. And something I say a lot, which I know a lot of people don't agree with, is that I don't think they have failed. And you have micro failures, and you have lots and lots of micro failures, even on a successful journey where
and you need to have them.
You need to have them. But overall, they haven't failed. The method they chose failed because they haven't been able to keep it up sustainably. It hasn't tackled their mindset and how they think about things, what they believe, and sort of how they show up every day to be on that journey. It's only tackled a part of it. And we all know that it's probably been a fad or something that has held back the truth of how you actually lose weight. And so they haven't had the answers. They haven't failed. The thing they chose to do has failed.
Yeah.
And sometimes that, just hearing that, can be really freeing for someone of, these decades and decades and decades of these failed attempts. And they're like, oh, okay, it's not me. I'm not the problem, which is a huge relief. And you can sort of start to build a better foundation from there. You sort of have almost dug up the turf to put, really strong foundations in, and then you lay and build. But to build from that place of pain and hurt and I actually don't think I can do this,
it's difficult. There's a lot of walls and barriers to jump over. I remember when I was personal training a long time ago, and this was one of the first times I had this with a client. So this was back when I was just, all I used to do with people was flexible diet and personal training, and like, done some weekly check-ins. That was as much as it went for me about 7, 8, 9 years ago when I was doing personal training. But that was still even quite taboo back then. Even now, I'm like, with if it fits your macros and flexible diet, and I even think that can be a slightly one size fits all approach, because what it looks like for everyone can be different. However, I've got this client called Lorraine. Shout out Lorraine if you're listening, because I know you still you still follow everything. But she comes in, she's doing training. We've got her doing flexible diet, and she's in a calorie deficit. She's losing weight. Well, like 4 or 5 weeks in, she's lost like 7 or 8 pounds. She's training hard. She's losing weight. She's been eating all the foods that she never believed that she could. And she's seeing like loads of success. And then she starts like freaking out to me. Like, it needs to be harder. Like, I need to suffer more. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Like, so I'm like, we're having a comment. I'm texting back and forth. I'm like, wait, hang on a minute. You're telling me the things that you want is to be able to eat the foods that you love, lose weight, and feel great while you're doing it. And all of them things are happening. And now you're telling me that it needs to be harder and you need to suffer more. And she wanted to just like tell me I just need to like cut back all these foods or do this. And what it ended up coming to was the fact that that's all she's known for 20 years. A quote unquote diet has had to be harder than this. If
it doesn't hurt, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And because she was seeing some sort of success and it didn't feel like it always has, she was almost like rebelling and fighting back against this. And I was just, we had to kind of just zoom out for a minute and be like, that's why those diets haven't worked and being sustainable for you in the long haul.
It's like clinging on to those really horrible phrases that were like bobbing around, decades ago, like nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
Oh God, yeah.
Fuck off, because I've had burgers that taste way better.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
But yeah, that was just like a really interesting insight. And then I actually did see that happen with like lots of clients moving forward, which I thought was really interesting. But now I understand that that's just a way that they're just like protecting themselves in a way, because that's all they know. That's all the evidence that they've had when they've done diets is that it's supposed to feel a certain way, because they don't know that it can be another way.
We've had testimonials actually, and a client of mine, Catherine, who had lost, I think it was something like 30 pounds and really changed her physique. She worked out from home. She ate ice cream every day, literally every day. She loves ice cream. I think her husband worked in wine and they drank a lot of wine. And I remember her saying, actually, it was really easy. And people in the comments lost their minds. They were like ripping her to pieces. Like, how dare you say this is easy? I've been, struggling for all this time. And she's like, oh, I'm just telling you my experience of it. Like I ate all the things I loved. And I mean, it does sound too good to be true.
Yeah, it does, and that isn't always the case for everyone. You know, for some people like balance looks different. Balance looks very different for some people. Some people have do have to look at curating their diets in different ways that works for them. But again, if someone's just talking about their experience and what's worked for them, that you know, that's what's worked for them. Like, we always try and talk in a broader sense of like, well, what's going to work. Like, it's not about, there's general things that a fit and healthy person will do, and there's general steps to become successful with your health and fitness. However, when you get into more granular details, it can look very different for you.
Yeah, it's actually really weird thinking about it that way, of like, you know, we try our best to help everyone, and to do that, we give advice that fits the masses, I suppose, you know, averages and how you can see success, which is actually really different to how we work with people one-on-one, because we would never speak generally or to, you know, treat that person the same as the next person. We find out, like, we get to know them as a person, how they think, what their life is like, literally from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. You know, we find out everything about them, which means you get that sort of really personalized approach to coaching, which people need, because they're not the same.
I mean, we follow principles. So as we were getting into with this about, you know, why it's not hard to lose weight, is that a principle of losing weight is energy balance, calories in versus calories out. And a lot of people hate the fact that they call it sicko, or they say like, oh, it's old school science, and that's not the way it is. And people go, well, your hormones can affect your weight loss. Yeah, your hormones can influence behavior and then could cause you to move less or eat more, but they don't change the laws of thermodynamics and energy balance. And you can have, you know, many other factors that can, like polycystic ovaries, can affect your basal metabolic rate. So you burn considerably fewer calories than the next person. But again, it doesn't change energy balance in terms of calories in, calories out. So there's lots of things that can influence your energy balance, but it doesn't change the principle of energy balance. And that's what we focus on. We're like, this is the principle. How, given your circumstances, your genetics, who you are as a person, how can we develop a method and a strategy that's going to work for you to adhere to that principle and see success?
Yeah, and adherence is key. If you give someone something to do that they just cannot keep up with, they're never going to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And often when we do goal setting with new clients, and they sort of get the gist of it going, you know, month on month after that, is, you know, we'll come in and be like, yeah, I want to work out 5 days a week. What are you doing at the moment? Well, no days.
Yeah.
You know, okay, well, on your worst week, your busiest, most stressful week, what are you going to show up and do week on week consistently?
Yeah.
And actually we tend to pull their number down. So, you know, I want you to work out less, and that's where we start with the goal. And it's often the same when they come in, they want to make a drastic change with their calories. They know the fewer calories they eat, the more weight they lose.
Yeah.
And that's where you get people coming in saying, I only eat 800 calories a day, or only eat 1,200 calories a day, and I'm not losing weight. And you're sort of like, I know that's what you're trying to eat, but inevitably you end up overeating. It's not possible for you to eat that few calories and not lose weight. And that's because the method you're choosing to lose weight by sticking to such low calories means that you can't keep it up and you overeat.
Yeah, and we've got a video on YouTube about how to set SMART goals if anyone's interested, because that's what we do with our clients. We set these smaller incremental goals that follow what you've just said, Kel, to help you build, in essence, build evidence. Like we just said, if you've got 20 years of evidence where you've not been able to lose weight or keep it off successfully, you can go into it with that mindset of like, this isn't going to work again. And it's important to get back into a winning mindset and have a belief system that shows that you can do this. So the idea of setting small goals is, you know, you're going to set, or SMART goals, so you're going to set a goal within a month. And, you know, you're going to set very realistic actions, like you just said. So
really specific
instead of just saying, I'm going to work out 5 times a week, you're going to work out twice a week. You know, instead of saying you're going to put yourself in a massive calorie deficit, maybe you're just going to eat more mindfully and have protein with every meal, you know, and drink more water. You keep it real. I mean, you do that for a month, you tick it off. You've kept a promise to yourself, which is really important. You've seen
building that trust.
Yeah, you've built that trust. You've seen progress, and you've also give yourself now evidence. Oh, I have set something out, and I've been able to successfully stick to it for a month, and then you can build on that, and you can set another SMART goals for another month, and you can be like, right, okay, 2 workouts a week was actually quite easy. You know, I'm going to move to 3. I mean, you can give that a trial and see. And then when you might get to 3 and you might be like, actually getting 4 in right now with all the other social commitments and family commitments I've got, maybe too much. Perfect. You found that middle ground for yourself. And again, just over time, and I understand why this doesn't work, because what we're talking about now is like building blocks over each month versus everybody wants just the 8-week fad or the 4-week fad or how I can strip drop this amount of weight, because patience is just kind of a lost art nowadays, isn't it?
It is, but you have to look at that bigger picture. Like you can be patient for 12 weeks, 6 months, a year, and get to where you want to be, or you can keep going after those, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and actually never get there and stay there. I mean, if you're thinking about patience, one of those is a winner, because one you're never going to get, and that's hella patience trying to do that.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that is just a reframe of like all the marketing is always about the quick fix, the quick fad. How can I lose weight in the fastest amount of time? And yeah, people see the appeal to that because they just want it to be over, I think is where a lot of people want to get to. But you have to just have that reframe of like, it's never over. Like this is a game that you play in forever. So it makes sense to play a game that's gonna work best and work on most in alignment with you. But yeah, if you've definitely been someone who's spent 10, 20, 30 years and not seen success with your health and fitness, you have to respect that, like that's your reality and that's the evidence that you've got. So you really do need to get back to a place of feeling like you can and you can win. You need to get back to a place of feeling like you can do this, that you can keep promises to yourself and you can actually win. And a great way of doing that is actually setting smaller, incremental, SMART goals where, we use like a confidence score, don't we? So it's like, you ask someone, oh yeah, like I'm going to work out 5 times a week. And it's like, all right, well, you just told me you've got 2 kids, you work full time, you have a date night with your husband, you have a dog, there's all these other different things. And where are you going to actually fit that in?
Yeah. It's when they say, I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. and you're like,
are you? Like, when's the last time you got up at 4 a.m.? Yeah.
Yeah. No, is the answer.
Like, what time do you go to bed? Or like 11 after every, so it's having a real conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And being like, right, what's the least that I could commit to right now? And putting that on paper and then going and action that and sticking with that and staying consistent.
Because when you do that, you're building habits and behaviors that reduce the friction and make those things easier.
Yeah.
So when, it does get to that time where you're going to do your next SMART goals, you have things in place that have made those 2 workouts easier. And it's, you might really feel like you can step it up to 3. That might fit into your life now. Whereas if you went straight in at 3, you might not have had those behaviors that worked for you.
Yeah. And
that's where it gets down into those really specific actions. Because, if you just say I'm going to work out 3 times a week, that's not a goal. That's just a statement. It's a wish. It's a dream. How are you going to work out 3 times a week? When are you going to work out 3 times a week? How do you picture that working? How's that going to fit into your already really busy life? And having that really realistic conversation and making it super specific.
Yeah.
Super specific. Where are your clothes? Where are your shoes? Like, how are you showing up to that workout?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those specific details in place, you're probably not going to do it.
Yeah. And you touched on a couple of parts there, which I think is really important, which is like setting your environment up for success. So, I think some people think, oh, those people just have infinite willpower or are just able to just make things, so much easier. If there was a jar of cookies left out in my kitchen, I might be able to go in and be like, oh, I don't want one. But probably by like day 2 or 3, if the cookie jar was still there, I'd be putting my hand in that cookie jar and eating some cookies. It's like my environment isn't set up like that. It's not that I don't have like chocolate or sweets or that type of food in the house. I do, but it's in the drawer. You know what I mean? It's not just like within my vision every time that I come in. And the foods that we buy and that are in the house and in the fridge are often going to be a lot healthier foods. I know some people who've got kids will be like, well, that isn't the case when you've got kids. And that's, I guess, slightly different conversation. But like setting your environment up for success by, maybe how you create your kitchen, how you lay it out. Even, something that I still do to this day is I lay all my workout clothes out the night before. So like the next day starts for me the night before, in terms of like, I lay out my workout clothes. If I'm going somewhere, my bag's packed. Like when I get up, I'm in the shower, I'm in the ice bath at this point, and then I'm just getting my clothes already laid out for me to go and work out.
So you've reduced that friction. So you just go on autopilot. You've got like, imagine life as a number of hurdles that you've got to jump over. You've just taken down 8 of those hurdles. You just stroll into your session. You don't have to think, oh, I've got to jump over that and I've got to do that. It's just there. It's just easy. And you can flip that. So you can make the habits that you want to do really easy by reducing the friction. And then if you've got a habit that you don't want to do, you can make it hard by increasing the friction. So putting the cookies out of eyesight.
Yeah.
You know, and you can make habits work for you, you know, in that way, just by carving out your environment. And I can hear people now going, yeah, but what about work? That's not my environment.
Yeah.
You can be the architect of so many different environments that don't even belong to you, just by sort of stepping out of your zone. You know, if you want to speak to your boss about making your workplace a healthier place to be, that benefits your boss. Because if people have more energy and they take less sick days, that's of benefit. Do you know what? You can be the person that drives that change. You can be the person that is the architect of your environment. Even if you don't make a big, bold statement like that, you can make those subtle changes without saying anything. You know, on your works day where you do a buffet, you bring in some more nutrient dense snacks rather than calorie dense. You can be that person, and you can be that change. You know, you don't have to give dessert to your people when you cook dinner. We don't do dessert in our house. It's like a thing that we only have when we go to other people's houses. And no one is ever like, what's for dessert? And if they do, there's a fruit salad in the fridge. And almost always they really appreciate that, because usually people are on their own journey and they're like, oh no, I've got, I'm going for dinner and they're going to feed me this. But you can be that person of change in people's lives around you. Fruit salads are delicious.
And you can also ask as well. I think there's a big stigma with like people don't want to be rude or don't want to be asked. But when you're sometimes going through any sort of journey of change, you do go through a phase in your life where you are unbalanced. And it's understanding that and accepting that, like, because I have a very funny relationship with the word balance. Like most of the time when people have achieved anything great, they've been extremely unbalanced. And if you've gained a load of weight, if you've gained 100 pounds, 50 pounds, even 30, 40 pounds, you've gone through a phase of your life where you've not been balanced. You've overconsumed on calories for a prolonged period of time to have gained that weight.
That's just deemed as so normal. Whereas if you're flipping the balance on the other side, people are like, oh. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, okay, so now you're going to go through a phase where you need to lose that weight to get to a healthy maintenance. And it's like, okay, so there are going to be parts of your life that are going to be less balanced now. And that might just mean having some conversations if you're going around to friends' houses around what they might be making, or about pulling back calories so you can have more on that day. There's lots of different ways that you can go about it, but it's important to note and be able to take those steps to achieve the success that you want.
And even if you don't want to verbalize it, you can be the architect of that environment so subtly. If you've sat down on a couch like we have now and there's a bowl of snacks out in front of you, you just take a couple, put them in your hand, and you slide that bowl away. So if you want to go get that bowl, you have to like get up and go get that bowl. You've increased the friction. You've made it harder. Whereas if it's there and you're just dipping your hand in nonstop, it's so easy to roll into that behavior. I don't even need to tell you that I'm trying to, reduce my calorie intake. All I've done is push the bowl further away. That's so subtle. And you can piece little things together like that in your environment over and over and over, wherever you go. That makes a big impact in how many calories you eat in a day.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just getting clear with boundaries as well, just for some of that, sometimes like if you can set some boundaries with people around a journey or a phase that you're going through, it's really important. I know we've spoke about here, obviously this is very much about that it's not hard to lose weight. Obviously the hardship comes with being able to lose weight and sustain it and keep it off. And through our coaching, we have 6 levels that we take people through to become a Body Smart graduate. And that's very much to develop the character traits, the skills, and the belief system, so they've lose weight and never have to gain it again. But we actually break this down into 3 phases. And very much what we've been speaking about is that weight loss phase. And I think other people have never really heard of these other 2 phases, which I think is really important to get into, which is that nobody's looking to lose weight forever. Like a calorie deficit is not just the be all and end all. It's a phase. It is a season in your life, just like many other things. There's so many other things.
Can't think of one, can you?
I can think of no. I mean, I was about to say like pregnancy is a season. Going to college is a season. Like first starting your job in the beginning is a season. There's lots of different seasons.
And it's temporary, and then it moves on.
Yeah, it's temporary. And it's like a fat loss phase or losing weight should be viewed as a season, and where there may not be as much balance applied because you're going through a phase to get to the next phase, and the next phase is at that point is a reverse. So if you lose weight, you consume fewer calories than you burn, but then if you just kept doing that, you would die. That's
starvation.
That's basically starvation. You would have organs shut down and die. That is the very like a calorie deficit in the Western world is controlled starvation.
Yeah.
You know, in a controlled manner, you're starving your body, so it eats itself because that's what fat is, stored energy. But if you kept doing that, you would eventually die, which is obviously, that's not the goal here.
That is not the goal.
That is not the goal. But as you then get to that goal or get to that healthy weight that you want to be, or whatever that looks like for you, now the next stage is to understand like what your new maintenance is.
Yeah.
So that's to go through a reverse diet.
And people really struggle with this phase.
Yeah.
Firstly, because they've not heard of it and they've not factored it into their plan. But it's a real sort of messing with your mind when you put all this effort and energy into losing the weight, and then things just shift. And you're trying to think about, what foods do I include? You know, how do I increase my calories without getting back into, you know, old habits that weren't working for you? Like, how does it all work?
Well, yeah, it's a foreign concept, isn't it? Like, I've not seen success for 10, 15 years. I've now seen success and lost all the weight. And now you're telling me to eat more food, which
People
I know.
are fearful.
Yeah, really fearful. Like, I finally got to my goal. Like, what do you mean? You tell me to eat more food?
And also because of the way we coach, you know, I don't expect my clients to be hungry. I expect my clients to still go out and enjoy food. A lot of people have really settled on the amount of calories that they eat. Like, they're like, I don't need any more. Like, I'm not hungry. I'm satiated. I'm getting to enjoy all these things. Like, I can't eat more calories.
Yeah, and you get used to it. You get used to eating at that sort of deficit, and you do kind of adjust. And it's like then as you start, so as you got a reverse diet is basically taking you from a calorie deficit up to a calorie maintenance over a period of time. You know, for some women, it can be as fast as 2 to 4 weeks, and for others, it can be honestly like a good couple of months. And this is just, is anecdotal the right word here? Just my personal experience of what I've got. Is just what I've tend to see is younger women or women who haven't done as many diets, so haven't gone through that cycle of on a diet, off a diet as much, it's easier for them to go from a deficit to maintenance. Yeah, they can just jump the calories up in a shorter space of time, like a couple of weeks. But if you've been someone that's been on a bunch of yo-yo diets for 10, 15, 20 years, I think there's a physiological element to that as well, but there's also a psychological element of like, we need to slowly bring those calories up. So, you know, there's been some cases where I've been adding 50 calories every 2 weeks to add an extra 500 to 600-700 calories into somebody's diet. But that could be going from, you know, 1,500 calories a day up to 2,200. And a lot of those women I've coached have never imagined that they could eat 2,200 calories a day and maintain their weight and actually feel the best, look the best, have tons of energy and feel super healthy. So the reverse is trying to understand what that new maintenance is, but in a way that works for your physiology and psychology.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many different ways to do it, because, you know, a lot of ladies that I've coached have struggled to eat more food. And, you know, and it's adding in, at that point we were sort of adding in liquid things, because that was just, it's an easy way to consume calories.
It's like when you're in a deficit, it's all about more satiating foods, more volume. So you're drinking more water, staying away from liquid calories. But then as you start to go the other way, if you are struggling to get more food in, you have to go the foods that you maybe did shy away from, which were the more calorie dense foods, or drinking your calories.
It's just, you know, maybe have a whole avocado rather than half an avocado. And there's lots of different ways of working it, but also it's a real mess with the mind of these ladies who have been dieting for so long, whose you know, biggest desire was to see the scale go down, and the scale stops going down, which is what they want, because they are really happy with where they're at. They've achieved their goal, often surpassed it, and then even though they want to increase their calories, it's like the scale's not moving anymore, which is, you know, it's really...
It can be slightly addicting as well,
you know, like
of that happening, but obviously looking at, again, that bigger picture. I mean, if anyone actually wants to see this firsthand, on Team BodySmart on Instagram, we post all our ladies' weight loss journeys, all our clients' weight loss journeys, and there's a real good amount on there that have gone through a reverse diet and a maintenance, and we've got the photos of them afterwards. We've got their weight loss graphs afterwards and their calorie intake afterwards, so you can see like, oh, you know, Julie started on 1,400 calories in a deficit, hit her goal weight, went through a maintenance, maybe gained like a couple of pounds, but now is eating 2,100, 2,200 calories, stopped tracking food, and, you know, is feeling their absolute best.
Yeah, and that's where you want to be. And you know, people's goals shift. Like when you get to that point, someone has like started perhaps to love training, and you know their goals shift to, you know, I want to build more muscle. I want to be strong as hell. You know, I want to be, you know, going into my 40s, 50s, 60s stronger than I've ever been. I don't want to lose muscle mass. And you get into a whole different ball game of like, I'm eating for, you know, absolute nourishment and like to fuel those gains in my workout. And you know, that's a really fun place to be in.
100%.
It's a place of abundance.
Do you remember who was the lady who was 69 and she just turned 70 when she was being coached by us, but she just hit maintenance? Do you remember, Si?
I know who you mean. I can't remember her name though.
Yeah. And
too many ladies.
Too many ladies. When she
was
69 and just turned 70, she'd been at maintenance for a couple of months, and literally on her video testimonial said, like, I literally feel like I'm going to go into the best decade of my life, which was just so like heartwarming to hear and to see
it's
that.
never too late.
No, it is never too late, but just to show that, you know, even for this one lady, you know, up until 69 had been on that sort of that cycle. And I think this is just these are the two phases that don't get spoken enough about when it comes to people losing weight. It is a season, it is a phase, and you do want to go into a reverse diet to understand what your new maintenance is. And then once you get to maintenance, the journey isn't over. You know, at that point, you do still need to keep up with the habits and behaviors that got you there. It just changes and shifts slightly because, you know, there's a very shocking statistic here, which we've said many times, but which is, you know, 80 to 95% of people that lose weight gain it all back over the next 2 to 3 years, which is, it's not actually surprising, but it still is a shocking percentage.
And then they try again, and what they're showing is, I can successfully lose weight. It actually isn't that hard. I am pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I just can't keep it off.
Yeah.
And often it's because the method that they've chosen to get there isn't sustainable. They haven't looked at the other phases of fat loss. They haven't looked at their reverse. They haven't looked at maintenance. They don't actually know how it works to eat that many calories and maintain their weight and, you know, still do their behaviors that they have ingrained into their life, that have just become their life. You know, you don't just stop them, like you said, you continue. They might shift.
Yeah.
It might be actually, you know, I don't want to go for so many walks. I actually don't know anyone that said that at the end of the journey. But, you know, because your calories in versus calories out, you can shift that with your diet or your movement. You can move less and keep eating the same amount, or vice versa. Have you ever had anyone say, yeah, I'm not going to work out so much? Or?
You know, there's been certain people that have, and again, it's like having that very honest conversation around, you know, do some people like want to see faster results, and then having a very open dialogue around what's practical for their lifestyles at this. And normally the people that can commit to this are maybe the ones who've got less commitments outside of themselves. So let's say they just work like a full-time job and they live on their own. And like, no, I really want to do this in a you know, the fastest way possible. And they might be like, right, I'm going to do 15, 20,000 steps a day, and they can maybe look to work 5 to 6 times a week. And yeah, they're going to be able to increase their output quite considerably because they're doing that. But they're willing to do that for the next 3 to 6 months to lose the weight faster. And then when they get there, they're like, no, I want to socialise more and enjoy it. And now the workout style back to 3 to 4 times the steps go to 10,000, and we manipulate their energy balance off the back of that. Again, this is where the comparison side of things can come in to players. Like, if you see somebody do that and see that level of success, but then you're a mum of 3 that also works full time and you know, and has got lots of other responsibilities going on. You know, and I always talk about kids and jobs and commitments, but sometimes we can have like a sick parent or people that we're looking after or responsible to. There's just so many other things that go on inside people's lives, and you have to be mindful that, well, look, it's actually not even physically or humanly possible for you to do 15,000 steps in a day. Like, you have not got the time with the responsibilities you've got. It's also not possible for you to work out 6 times a week if you've got kids to take to school and clubs and this and that. So it's just dialing it back to everyone wants fast results, but actually being honest with like what's the fastest for you. Because I've got some clients who've been able to lose 2 to 3 pounds a week. I've had some lot bigger ladies who've been able to lose 4 to 5 pounds a week, and they're going as fast as they can. I've got some other people who have lost a quarter of a pound a week when it comes to loss, and they're going as fast as they can. And that's just a mindset. Like, fast and slow is relative to you.
Yeah, and so much of your weight loss journey is relative to you. And the more that you're looking outside of yourself, you know, you're expending energy on comparing yourself to someone who is nothing like you.
Yeah.
And that you've got the same 24 hours in a day is true, and very not true all in the same breath. And, you know, that person that can put in, you know, all of that time, great, that's amazing for them, but that's not your life.
Yeah.
And you do have to be real with yourself. And I have to, particularly with like chronic illness, if I compared myself to people that are well, I'd just be a miserable cow.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, they get to do all this, that, you know. I have to adapt in a way that other people might not have to adapt. That makes my journey harder. So if I'm comparing to them, that just sets me up for failure.
It's not self-serving, is it? It doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, when I was like early 20s, I used to compare myself to other guys quite a lot who were like in really good shape, like, and it just was, it probably gave me like a little bit of body dysmorphia, and it wasn't healthy for me at all, because I wanted to look like them, but I could never look like them, like ever. Like, we have completely different genetic makeup, so, and just, that took a while for me to even just reframe the fact that, oh no, I can only be the best version of me, and that is all I should be striving for, and I can look at other people and take inspiration from them, and I can look at them and take maybe, well, that works for you, could that work for me? Oh yeah, that can't work for me. Or that couldn't work for me. And just take each, you know, it's just like taking pieces of advice or things that work for other people and being able to apply it to my life and seeing if that is a good way for me to see success. But again, just taking it back to be like, I should just be focusing on being the best version of me.
Yeah,
and
it takes energy to, you know, be looking and comparing yourself. It's like, if you internalize that and put all your energy into you, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Looking outside is not.
Yeah.
Not
so we've got the fat loss phase, which is the phase one. That's the lose weight, get to your goal, whatever that looks like. And that can change, and you might have to go through multiple fat loss phases in your life, especially, as you know, you've just had to lose how much?
55 pounds.
After having a baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, like that's obviously something that can happen as well, because some people lose weight and then you can gain weight through a pregnancy and then need to lose weight again. So you can go through multiple fat loss phases in your life. Sometimes you might be at maintenance, but choose to be more social over Christmas and might gain a bit of weight. Hey.
Me, I did have 5 pounds to lose, and then I had 10 pounds to lose.
And again, like, not having that ability to judge yourself, just understanding, like, yeah, you chose to be more social, you ate a little bit more, you drank a bit more, you gained a bit of weight. Now you're going to choose to lose that little bit of weight again. So that's the phase one, is the fat loss phase. Phase two, reverse diet. Understand what your new maintenance is and bring your calories up to maintenance. And then maintenance, which is where you're going to hopefully be spending most of your time. And that is really important to understand that that's the process that you want to go through. For anyone starting, what would be your top couple of tips, Cal?
Start small and build, for sure. Let go of the perfectionist mindset. Just build and be honest with yourself. What can I do? What can I show up and do repeatedly? Because that's your goal. It's not what you can show up and do, you know, on your best week ever. If you set yourself up to do 2 workouts a week, and you on one wild week and the stars have aligned can do 5 workouts, great. But your goal is you show up and do 2 workouts. And to set your goals like that to start with is the best way to set yourself up for success, and you build from there. But you have to be realistic with yourself. And I mean, if you have a great coach, you should know how long your journey-ish is going to take. And that's a ballpark figure, because things happen. You know, in an ideal world, to get from where you are now to where you want to go, it's going to take about this much time. That's really helpful to know, because you've got, you know, a sort of set time in mind that you understand this phase isn't forever, this fat loss phase isn't forever. I don't have to be in a calorie deficit forever, and then I build my calories afterwards. That's really good to know.
For me, one of the big pieces of advice here that I would give is that if this is something that you've been struggling with for a long period of time, and even if you go and take some of the advice that you've listened to in this podcast or that we previously put out, and you've still not been able to see success with it, because the information is one thing, the implementation is something completely different. And sometimes those walls that you might have put up of not seeing success for such a long period of time can just be too much. And if that is the case, finding a way to make yourself accountable, or to hire a professional or a coach is that cheerleader and source of accountability that you may need to get you to that place. And, you know, it really can be just like one of the best returns on investments that you ever make, because even if you have to put time into a coach for 4 months, 8 months, 2 years, if then over those next 2 years you spent the next 50, 60 years of your life feeling fit, healthy, quality of life's improved, more energy, better everything, that's a small price to pay.
Yeah.
Especially if you can, on reflection, look back at the past 15, 20 years of not feeling comfortable in your own skin, always feeling like you're trying to lose weight, shying away in photos, not feeling comfortable as you want to in the bedroom, just losing your confidence, not going for that promotion. You know, like I think you said this, like the cost of not doing this is very expensive.
Yeah. And the return is priceless.
Yeah.
To live that life that you can only dream of, that is priceless. We have to have some really difficult conversations sort of on the front end of where people are considering coaching, because people are always like, I'll just try again, I'll just try one more time by myself, and you're like, what is your plan when you get there? And you do have to have that difficult conversation, like, what is going to be different this time? Because the answer is not just to try harder. You have tried really hard, and you just need support, and there's absolutely no shame in that. I think it's something to take pride in. Like, we can all get support in something. It is my job to coach other women to achieve their goals, and I benefited hugely from having a coach. There's no shame in it. It's exciting.
And that shouldn't be at all. Like, all the best athletes in the world, all the highest performers in the world, all have coaches, all have mentors, just to continue to improve the skills and get better. And if this is something that they're looking at getting that extra edge, getting that little bit better, if this is something that you've been struggling with for decades or a long, long period of time, it really does make sense to go and find a source of accountability or a source of help that can get you to where you need to be, because they can be that cheerleader. Maybe when you're not being a cheerleader for yourself, they can help you reinforce those good habits and that positive language that you need, so you can then start to believe in yourself and create more evidence of, like, this does work. And then get to that place where you can actually hopefully go on the last fat loss phase of your life.
Freedom.
Freedom.